What's going on, Spurs fans? I'm Ethan Quintero with SSPN. Jude isn't here with me. He's going to do his season preview separately. We're going to record them and then splice them together and actually post it to YouTube. But this is just my season preview slash prediction video. Going to try and keep it as short as we can. Just go over the major points. The first one being, to me, I think this is going to be Pop's last season. I know we've been saying that for a couple years now. But he's getting up there in age, and he's already finished his Olympic gold medal run. And it would just be like Pop to just finish out his contract with the Spurs and quietly, without fanfare, walk into the sunset, go over the hill, and just kind of disappear. I'm sure he'll still be involved, probably like front office stuff, and just kind of hang out at the practice facility and whatnot. But to me, this has to be his last year for the Spurs to move on. It's a perfect ending to an otherwise perfect career, five-time champion, the winningest coach of all time. He has nothing left to prove. So obviously, we're not going to win the championship this year. So to me, his main goal as a coach is going to be to teach our young guys, predominantly our 19-year-olds who haven't been here as long as some of the other dudes, and just kind of enforce the Spurs mantra. Try and teach, give everybody a good base structure for San Antonio Spurs basketball. That way, when he does decide to move on and the new coach comes in, whoever that might be, they don't have to start from ground zero. All of our players will be, set as far as what their roles are, what their potential is, and how to play basketball the right way within the Spurs system and within the Spurs culture. Um, with that being said, I don't think we're going to be very good this year. My record prediction is going to be 22-60. That might seem low to some of us, but really, this is not a great roster. It's very young. We don't know who's going to kind of step up and be that next go-to, scorer, that franchise player, if you will. DeJounte Murray is gone. He was the reason we won a lot of our games last year. He was basically averaging a triple-double and willing us to some of those wins. We don't have him. How will we play this year? It's still to be seen. With that being said, I believe our rotation, our starting five, will be Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Keita Bates Diop, and Jakob Pertl. I know a lot of you will probably turn your nose up to Keita Bates Diop as that starting four. This is not what I want. This is just what I assume will happen because Pop loves Keita Bates Diop. We rolled him out there at the starting four position the first couple of preseason games. He's not going to get in anybody's way. He's not going to wow us with anything. He's just going to be in the right place at the right time, play quality defense, and hopefully knock down some threes. I know he had one game where he went 4 for 4 this preseason. Otherwise, he was pretty bad from three-point range. But we will see. Luckily, we're pretty deep now at the four position, which is a definite change from past seasons. But I think we'll run a 10-man rotation, and the bench unit will be Josh Primo at that point guard, Josh Richardson, Doug McDermott, Isaiah Roby, and Zach Collins. Now, I don't know if Zach Collins has recovered from his injury. I know he got hurt the second to last preseason game. If he's not going to be playing, I think we'll switch Isaiah Roby to the backup five and give Jeremy Sohan some minutes. Jeremy Sohan is the only rookie that I would look at getting minutes to early on in the season because he plays power forward, because he's so defensively versatile. And Pop played him a considerable amount of minutes with some of our more rotational players in the preseason, more so than guys like Blake Wesley and Malachi Branham. But again, that's still to be seen. Pop did allude to some of the rookies getting more minutes more quickly, so hopefully that is the case. I for one, would love to see Jeremy Sohan get more minutes so he can get used to being on an NBA floor, get used to guarding some of these more versatile wings and bigs. And defense is going to be a struggle this year. It's been a struggle in the past, especially with guys like on the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm thinking of Jaren Jackson Jr., I'm thinking of Anthony Davis. You guys know who I'm talking about. Aaron Gordon, Jeremy Grant. I know those aren't big names, but they're guys that have given us issues in the past that I think he can help out with. And we saw him play some three as well. So if any rookies get meaningful minutes early on, I do think it would be Jeremy Sohan, especially if Zach Collins is not ready to go at the start of the season. With that being said, breakout scorers, breakout seasons for guys like Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson are to be expected. DeJounte Murray, DeMar DeRozan, Patty Mills. None of those veterans are in their way anymore. There is no excuse for them not to be our go-to scorers. I think Devin Vassell will average somewhere 17 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. I think that's fair on efficient scoring. He'll finally be able to show off his bag, get to that mid-range. He's shown us some improved ball handling skills, some improved aggressiveness. Obviously, he's been in the weight room, so he'll be looking to get to the cup, which is something exciting that he hasn't really had that element to his game in past seasons. He's been kind of pushed into the corner, been an off-ball shooter. Now he will actually have the ball in his hands. And then Keldon Johnson, of course, took a big leap last year. I think he was averaging 17 points per game for us last year next to DeJounte. I would like to see him take another leap to around the 20 points per game mark, 7 rebounds, probably 3 assists a game. He's not much of a passer, but he did lose 20 pounds. He's looking to play the 3 this year as opposed to the 4. I'm sure that will open up his game. We saw that dribble handoff game, able to pull up from 3-point range, was very consistent during the preseason. I would look for that to continue, as well as his off ball movement from last year to continue and to cross over into this season. My biggest concern with Kelvin is whether or not he worked on his ball handling. I think that he did. I'm looking forward to seeing some improved game as far as creating his own shot, creating shots for others, especially in that mid-range area. If he's able to do that as well as continue to finish consistently at the rim despite losing 20 pounds, I think he'll have a great season. Probably in that most improved player candidacy this season, like DeJounte was last year. But the big question is going to be who's our third option? Will it be Jakob Poeltl? We saw him hit a mid-range jumper. Perhaps he's looking to be more of an aggressive scorer in the low block. That's something that I would like to see because that would only boost his trade value as well as help us win games. Which I know we're not really trying to win games, but as a Spurs fan, it's kind of hard not to want to win games. But we'll talk about that, as we continue down the season. Or could it be Josh Primo? We saw him struggle early in the preseason, but he finished strong with, I believe, an 18-point night, something like that. If he gets going, if he gets aggressive and is able to get his jump shot to fall with more consistency, I think that he could be a great six-man option, similar to Manu Ginobili, how he came in after about 4 or 5 minutes into the first quarter, fresh legs, and be explosive and dynamic for us. That is what we all want to see. We want Josh to take that next step. We know he has the confidence. It's just about getting his consistency consistent. Um, Trade deadline expectations. To me, I think Jakob Poeltl, Doug McDermott, Josh Richardson are all viable options to be traded at the deadline. I don't know if all three will be traded. I think Jakob probably has the most trade value, so he will be the one to keep an eye on, especially if his numbers get boosted as that third go-to scoring option potentially that we'd like to see this season. But definitely no moves to be made until the All-Star break for sure. And then at that point, I think rookies will actually start to get some playing time if those trades go through. I'm talking about Malachi Branham and, of course, Blake Wesley, who showed some glimpses. Blake Wesley more so in the summer league. He kind of struggled a little bit more, especially with decision making, controlling the ball, making good decisions at that point guard spot. He struggled with that in the preseason. That will come with time. All of our ball handlers have struggled with that. Tony Parker, DeJounte Murray, they've all had those issues, so I'm not worried about that. He'll get his reps in the G League in that first half of the season. Malachi Branham, I think, could have a more immediate impact, but because he was more of a late pick, I'm sure he will be in the G League. And because we kind of have a lot of wing players, there's not really that much room for him on this roster until we make a trade with Josh Richardson or Doug McDermott, whatever it may be. But I think he can be a very helpful piece. He showed me in the preseason that he's a more capable spot-up shooter than I gave him credit for, and his confidence is through the roof. He's able to find his spots and score with ease. End goal for the season overall, clearly we're trying to get a lottery pick. We want the Victor Wembanyama train in San Antonio. We've had a great history drafting both foreign players as well as bigs. David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. The list goes on and on. I think it would be a great headline for the Spurs to land Victor Wembanyama, but Scoot Henderson is not a bad consolation prize either. Either way, we will be happy. But the biggest goal for me is to teach all of our young players the proper way to play basketball, find their confidence, boost everybody's confidence, and really start playing Spurs basketball with the ball moving without being stopped by one predominant ball handler or scorer. That is the most exciting thing. And to see constant improvement too, especially amongst our rookies like Malachi Branham, Jeremy Sohan, and I don't like to count Josh Primo as a rookie, but he basically is. He's 19 years old. He's still, he could still be considered a rookie. So improvement with him as well will be the biggest thing, at the end of this season. Where does everybody end up? With that being said, that is my season preview. Those are my predictions. Drop a comment below if you have any questions or you disagree with me or agree with me. Either way, we are glad to see some comments below. We love reading everybody's words. As always, like, subscribe, hit the like button. I already said that. You know what I'm saying. I don't know if Jude went before me or after me. Either way, this is SSPN. I'm Ethan Quintero. Thanks for watching, and you guys have a good one. Go Spurs, go.
What's up, guys? Welcome into SSPN season preview on the San Antonio Spurs. You probably just heard from Ethan, and now it's my turn to just kind of talk about where we think the silver and black are going to go this year. And let's just start right off the top, kind of with how Ethan opened this up. This is probably Pop's last season. Like he said, we've been saying this for a couple years now, but it really just seems like this would be super fitting, not only in whenever it comes to his preseason comments, but just the fact that it's the last year of his contract, like that would be the most Pop thing ever. We've said this before on the show. I'll say it again here. Him walking out when his contract's up, at the end of 2023, when we signed the other one, we were like, oh, he's not going to make it all the way. Here he is. He's going to coach out this last season. And like he said in the preseason media availability, he's just going to try to develop these players as much as possible, right? All these young guys, so many guys sub 23, 22 years old. And that kind of leads right into my prediction, which is the Spurs being in the bottom three teams of the league. So, just the three bottom teams of the league, whether it's the East or West, I think the Spurs are going to be one of those three teams. And if they want to get their goal at the end of the year, when it comes to just in all objectiveness this year, getting that prized number one pick in the 2023 draft of Victor Wembanyama, 18-year-old Frenchman, playing for Metropolis 92 or whatever the team's name is. Go watch the G League highlights when they played the G League Ignite, and Scoot Henderson, somebody else who's a super talented player. If the lottery can be the lottery sometimes. It's complete luck. It's all odds. The Spurs want to get the top three odds that they can to kind of make it where they're in that mix for the number one pick, or at least, having the most significant amount of chances to get the number one pick, because after that, it kind of starts to drop off. But like I said, Scoot Henderson, not a bad consolation prize at all. Definitely a potential future star. And I really like Amen Thompson. I don't know if he pronounces his name differently, his first name, whether it's Amen or Amen. But I'm just going to go for the sake of this video. Amen Thompson out of G League Ignite, 6'7" versatile guard, can play the 1 through 3. I know the Spurs don't want more guards, but as Brian Wright said, they're not in a position where they can afford to not take best player available. So hopefully they get one of those three out of the year. Obviously, you want the big one, just like Timmy D. If we could somehow win that prize, that would just be great. Not only for just the team's sake and winning, but just for the franchise, how much revenue he's estimated to bring in. I remember seeing a tweet or an article or a headline, something like that. So I didn't dive too deep into it, but it was along the lines of Victor Wembanyama could bring in like anywhere like immediately of like 500 million, could add 500 million to a team's net worth. So, I mean, maybe that may be misremembered in my mind, but I want to say it was that big of a number. And when you go watch his highlights against G League Ignite, it sure looks like it. And he's doing it in France again. So my prediction is the Spurs are bottom of the league, bottom three of the league, and have the bottom three draft odds, those highest draft odds that they can get. That's the goal for the Spurs this year. And the other main thing that I think is the key for the Spurs when looking at this season overall, it kind of has to do with my shirt a little bit here. Devin Vassell. It's evaluating the young guys. That's what I wrote down in my notes for the outline for this video, is evaluating the young guys verbatim. That's what I said. Evaluating the young guys is my key for the season. And three key guys that I wrote down. Obviously, there's a lot of young guys on this team that are going to be key to the future. But when it comes to just evaluation this season, I think the three guys that the Spurs really want to focus on are the man I mentioned on my shirt, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and then Josh Primo. Josh Primo played really strong to end the preseason, had a 23-point performance, I believe, against the Thunder earlier this week to finish it off. He was beating dudes off the dribble. The way his handle, I can't really show it just on my camera here, my webcam, but like he was letting balls go out like really far whenever it comes to his dribble. Like beforehand, he would keep it a little bit tighter. A lot of guys do that. Um, I think me and Ethan maybe even touched on it on the last SSPN live where we were kind of comparing him to Devin Booker a little bit, but it seems like dribbling wise, just handles wise, that might be an even higher ceiling than at least that comparison. And this is not me saying he's going to be Devin Booker, but just the fact that he came in as an 18-year-old, was an off-ball shooter on a really good SEC team. Devin was on Kentucky. Josh Primo was on Alabama with a lot of, veterans on that team like Herb Jones, who were already main contributors and scorers. Not necessarily Herb Jones was that scorer, but you'll get what I'm saying. Um, and so kind of came from those similar backgrounds, and it was always kind of like a potential pick, like what can be this guy's ceiling. And we saw how it turned out with Devin Booker, and the Spurs are hoping it works out the same way with Josh Primo, or at least developing into a Jordan Clarkson type player. I know that sounds not very good for the 11th overall pick or wherever we picked Primo, but what I guess I'm getting at is, his floor is, at least, just a future six man who can get buckets off the dribble and is, plays really hard defense and has a solid frame. But I think, at least in those last two preseason games, just preseason, it really feels like Primo's development. You got to see a little bit more of it. Will that translate over to the regular season? That will remain to be seen, but we saw some little shots of potential there from Primo of what he can potentially be and the potential improvements, like major leaps that he made, over the offseason grinding, just like everybody else's. So, if he can keep making those moves off the dribble, beating people off the dribble, putting people on skates, pulling up in people's faces. I mean, there was some stuff that looked really good in those preseason games. Just preseason games. That's a big asterisk, and it was against the Jazz, or it was either the Jazz or the Thunder, and those are the teams competing for the bottom of the West with us. So there are some key things to keep in mind there. But Primo, man, if he can really develop it, like those were the things that it was like, okay, when he was making those type of plays, if you go watch his highlights, and like I said, putting people on skates, playing solid defense, can still clean up the playmaking like we saw in Austin last year. This is a long Primo rant. I didn't realize how long this was going to go. But you could kind of see where Brian Wright was coming from. Like there were some things that he did that were special. It really looks like it, and so it's hard to call anything special, like I said, in those circumstances. But the way that he looked, it's like I can see the vision a little bit now with Brian Wright. So the other two guys that are going to be key for this season are Devin Vassell, the man on my shirt. If you look at preseason, you really kind of saw him struggle before KJ got back in, and then when KJ got back in, then the struggle wasn't as much because he was able to be off ball, more in rhythm, take wide open shots. But still, he's developed some things driving inside, then doing a jumper on the elbow, off one leg to create separation. What's up, guys? Sorry for the little bit of the change up there. My power actually went out right when I was recording. So going back to Devin, what we were talking about, right? Talked about that the little jumper he hits off his left leg where he's able to create separation from guys. And I was about to get into, I saw some dude on Twitter and he was like, Devin may only be 6'5", but his wingspan and the way that he shoots and the way that his shot's set up just allows him to, basically, it makes him feel like he's 6'8". And I was like, man, SSPN been saying that. Anyways, enough of that banter though. Getting on to some of the other guys on the team. Obviously, Keldon's the other, main guy. Like I said, so Devin Vassell, Josh Primo, Keldon Johnson. Those are really like the guys to evaluate when it comes to this season. KJ, the main thing for him is going to be switching to that 3-2 role. Obviously, he played that much more coming into the league, in high school and at Kentucky. And although he's, it feels like on the Spurs team, a seasoned vet, obviously he isn't, but still on the Spurs team, it feels like it, playing the 4 and even sometimes the small ball 5 over the past 2 seasons, there's just going to be some things that I think he learns and that he'll have to adjust to in that 3-2 role. And I think kind of Ethan hit on it when he was talking about his ball handling. I think that would be where the biggest issues come into play. He may look great against the Jazz and the Thunder in the preseason, but when he starts playing some elite or just real solid perimeter defenders, I think there will be an adjustment period for him. I don't think it's going to take long. I think he's going to smash through it. It'll take a little bit. There will be some struggles, but once he breaks through, I don't think it'll be that much of an issue anymore. I think Keldon's a future all-star. I love the contract we gave him, and I'm just excited to see what he does as a team leader this season. Talking about the rookies, it's going to be very interesting just if they get minutes. I think that's the biggest question. Ethan talked about, Sohan really getting that opportunity and that kind of being a storyline and a potential thing to happen. I agree with that just because the backcourt is so log jammed. I just think that he's going to be the guy to get minutes when it comes to that rookie class. And that all kind of stems back to what Pop said at preseason media days, just talking about how these guys may get minutes earlier than they expect. So that's something that's also key to watch. Is also just watching them in Austin, see how they do. But a lot of this is also going to depend on the fact on if the Spurs trade some of their key pieces like a Jay Rich and a Doug McDermott, because if that happens, maybe you've got minutes for Blake Wesley or a Malachi Branham or Branham, however you want to pronounce it. So I think that's another key thing. If you, that kind of another 3-man group, we got Devin, KJ, and Primo to kind of be, the leaders on the team, and so young, it's kind of weird giving them that label. But they're the three to kind of evaluate and watch this season. I think the other three to keep an eye on whenever it comes to moves are Jakob Poeltl, Doug McDermott, and Josh Richardson, the vets, right? Those guys could help out any team that they're on, especially the way we're playing Doug now. I think it fits his skill set better. I think it showcases how his skill set could fit on a contending team better. Jay Rich is Jay Rich. He's going to be great. And Jakob is quietly one of the better defensive centers in the league. And another versatile player as well, could help out any championship contender. But if you guys go read my Substack on the Spurs, I wrote a couple, just last week. I wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs ended up giving Jakob a cheap 4-year deal too. So you never know. But if those guys get moved, that could open up some minutes for some of the rookies. And just as another final thought, kind of on this season and on this roster, just two players to watch. So first, Trey Jones, because I feel like there's an outside chance like Trey Jones could really break out this year. And I know that doesn't seem like that, like, oh, it's not that much of an outside chance, like he's the starter. But the thing is, I don't think Spurs fans are expecting that much of him, and I don't think the rest of the league is either. I think his jump shot being improved is going to help a lot. Obviously, we'll have to see that proven in the season, but I really believe that it is much better just with the way it looks, the way it goes through the basket, the rotation on the ball. I'm not saying he's going to be a sniper, but I'm saying that he's not going to be the same Trey Jones as before, and will take a lot more threes, and can maybe hover around that 30 to 33% mark, just to keep defenses honest, and just really turn it into more of a Tyus Jones type player. I know that's so crazy because it's his older brother, but like that's kind of what you want Trey Jones to be. And he's somebody who any team would like to have, just the way that he, at worst, I mean, he can set up your offense and play really solid defense. And if, he can get some of those floaters going, I've seen him beat people off the dribble and get that jump shot going from deep. Trey Jones is going to be a player, man. Not going to change the Spurs' my prediction of the Spurs being at the bottom 3 of the league. But I still think that he could be somebody that, maybe his contract would be a little bit more expensive next offseason than some of us may be expecting, depending on the year he has. And then the second guy, and this will mainly be in Austin, is Dom Barlow. I think he's somebody that could really be a part of the Spurs' future. I know that sounds crazy right now, and maybe I'll be proven wrong and to look like a crazy person, but I don't think that he's a Devontae Kaycock two-way. I think that he is hey, we really liked what we saw from you at Overtime Elite, and that league's just starting. Let's get you in the G League for a season with some NBA experience here and there, and then get you a part, of us moving forward. And that's not me saying Dom Barlow is going to start or anything, but that's me saying that maybe next season, Dom Barlow, if things go well in Austin this year, and some of the stuff that we saw in garbage time preseason. That's key. That could not translate. But if that versatility, playing the 4 and the 5, being able to stretch the floor, being able to guard on the perimeter and on the interior, and be able to switch kind of seamlessly, just like Jeremy Sohan. Um, it's going to be very interesting to see how Dom Barlow progresses, because I feel like his ceiling might be higher than even me and Ethan may have thought coming out of Summer League. So really like that pickup. Excited to see what he does in Austin and the minutes he gets in the NBA if he does this year, because the little spurts that we've seen from him, it seems like there's been a lot of progression from Summer League. So if that can continue, maybe if things go dire for the Spurs, I mean, not really dire, you're still going to get a star player in the draft, but maybe if you don't get a Scoot or a Victor Wembanyama, you can pair up old Dom Barlow with his old teammate from Overtime Elite, Amon Thompson, or a Sir Thompson, or Osar. I don't even know how to say it. But Amon Thompson's kind of the big prize. Not to throw any shade to his brother, but y'all get what I'm saying. We could have an Overtime Elite team in San Antonio. Anyways, we'll have to see. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to tune in to our live stream after the Spurs season opener against the Hornets. Be sure to follow me and Ethan on Twitter, and don't forget to also follow at SSPN on YT on Twitter to watch the show on Twitter. We do live streams on there recently, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the content. That's all we ask. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Come hang out with us on our opening stream on Wednesday, and we'll be here all season. We're going to start to make maybe some more content like this here and there outside of the lives, covering different topics, stuff like that. But we appreciate y'all. It's going to be an interesting year for the Spurs, but we should learn a lot about our young guys and hopefully see a lot of development on our way to getting Victor Wembanyama. I didn't even say his name right. I just cursed the Spurs. I'll catch y'all later.